Is that what satellite television is all about? Listen, they could lay there tonight, and you could watch them. We can see it within microseconds. It's unbelievable. Yet, how would one write this? If a man were trying to write an explanation of this verse back in the 1800s, he wouldn't have a clue. But we know all about these things. And Israel is a nation. And these things are happening and going to happen. But they that dwell, verse 10, upon the earth shall rejoice over them. Hey, those guys that were warning us and telling us the end's going to come and fire's going to come and bringing down all those plagues, those guys are done and over with. We can, and it says they'll rejoice over them being dead and make merry and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets, and this is what it's your job and mine to do, agitate people a little bit, tell them the what? Truth, which they don't necessarily want to hear. Why did they kill Jesus? He said, you seek to kill me, a man that hath told you the truth. But it tormented them that dwelt on the earth. And after 3 days and 1/2, the Spirit of life from God, and in verse 11, entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. Again, I believe that's television, and if anybody was not passed out from their drunkenness and their parties, they saw this, and they would pick up a telephone and say, hey, turn on channel 6 or channel 10 and see this. It said, and they heard great voices from heaven saying, come up hither. And I believe this is when the actual rapture, those who are alive remain, occurs. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And we go up, and fire then comes down. The wrath of God comes on the people who are left on the earth. Look also with me in Revelation chapter 13. Bear with me, I'm trying to. This is really important. Look at verse 9, Revelation 13:9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Jesus said that. It's written to many of the churches in Revelation in chapters 2 and 3. But it means really focus. Pay attention. Let this get a hold of you. Let it sink into your heart. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. What's the tendency when it comes to these last days and all these evil people who will be doing everything to try to destroy you and to destroy me, to destroy God's church? What's the human tendency? To fight back physically. But remember this, when it says about putting on the whole armor of God, it says our weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. And if we want to take them on carnally or physically, guess what? God will let him get us. He's going to do it with my power. Remember, it's not by might, nor by power, nor by your tongue or mine, by the way, but by my Spirit, said the Lord. The only thing that should come forth from your tongue is, it is written. Don't give him your ideas and opinions. Tell him what he said. Look in verse 13 again. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is get this, the patience and faith of the saints. That God is allowing all these things. An example of the disciples, when the guy came to arrest Jesus, what Peter did. Remember, he cut off the guy's ear. He took up the sword. And listen, Jesus being arrested was part of God's plan. And all this end time stuff is part of the plan. It's not for us to fight it, but make sure we do our part in it, that we do right. But here's the patience and faith in it. You know what's coming down. You know who's behind it. And not to be overcome of his evil, but to overcome it with good. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. He exercised all the power of the first beast, I'm in verse 12, before him, and causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. The Antichrist is going to receive, somebody's going to shoot him or do something to kill him. He's going to be miraculously raised up, and they're going to try to make everybody bow to him and worship him as he is. Like Jesus died and rose again, this guy dies and rises again. They'll say he's the real Christ, but he's a counterfeit. Remember, everything the Antichrist does, he's purporting that this Antichrist in the false prophet is the real Christ. And if you don't know your Bible, guess what? You'll be deceived. Jesus said so many times, take heed that no man deceive you. And that's why I ask you to be ready to know what's coming down, to know what's happening. And doeth great wonders, verse 13. And what are most people, what condition are they going to be in at that time? 2 Thessalonians, God's going to send them strong delusion, that they shall believe the lie, that they all might be damned, who believe not the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. But there's miracles. And they'll say, there's something wrong with you. You don't see he's the Christ. He rose from the dead. He's working miracles. And we know that he's not the Christ. Why? Because we have inside information. Because somebody told us ahead of time what's coming down. He doeth great wonders, verse 13, though, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image of the beast which had the wound and the sword, the sword did live, and that he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. How can they project an image of the beast? Well, we have that thing again called television. Television. Isn't television an image that speaks and moves? Again, who would have understood this 100 years ago even? It was beyond them. It was not understandable. But the whole thing, what does the devil want? He wants everybody to bow to him, to sign on with him. And we are to have the same spirit as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, be ready. And it says, we are not careful to answer thee, O king. Our God is able to deliver us, and he will deliver us. We're to have confidence that the Lord's with us, he's on our side, and he's not going to leave us nor forsake us. And they said, even if he doesn't, we're not going to bow. That as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And if you read Revelation 5, what happens to many of the Christians living at that time? They're martyred. Their blood cries out, it says. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their forehead, or in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save that he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. How many transactions today that take place electronically? It's unbelievable. And so what's the next thing? What's the problem in the news these days? People stealing your credit card information. People stealing credit cards. So what the government say they can do to avoid that? They'll put a chip inside of you. A chip in your forehead or in your head. So you walk into a store, it'll know who you are, and it will, as you pick up stuff, put it in your cart, it'll be recorded, and when you leave the store, it'll be charged to you, because everything has a product code and a chip today, almost everything you buy. Who would have ever dreamed of this stuff? What prophet could have even imagined what he was talking about?